talk about Doomsday Prepper.
So, doomsday prepper is a practice to anticipate and adapt to upcoming disaster and condition, from low-level crisis to end-state-level events. The prepping culture was stated when the political commentator Lewis Latham suggests the first nuclear test on 16 July 1945. It became a new era of humanity's ability to destroy the entire planet. Therefore, this caused mass panic and fear because nuclear weapons were seen as a force that humans yet could not fully understand. Then, what are the purpose preparing for exactly? So, the emergence of these fears has resulted in transformation of the meaning of the apocalypse in American pop culture. As Wojcik in 1997 argues that the end of the world has been interpreted as a meaningful, transformative, and supernatural event involving the annihilation and the renewal of the earth by a deities or divine force. During the last half of the 20th century, however, widespread beliefs about a meaningless apocalypse have emerged and now compete with traditional religious apocalyptic worldviews. This movement had its origin in America around 1950s and that was during Cold War. And this movement, initially known as revivalism at the first time, and the primary concern of those years was the possibility nuclear war. And then the Cold War influenced to the building Fallout Shelter and the Duck and Cover movie. And those drills public space. But the mentality of the nation survival movement was influenced by the previous movement in the Great Depression era around 1929 to 1939 and the Dust Bowl in 1934 until 1940. And at that time, there were anecdotes about how grandmas saved every margin top and reused the plastic bags and never throw away leftover food. Next one is in 1941, President Frankie D. Roosevelt Executive Order 8757 to form to the Office of Civilian Defense or we call OCD. This was an agency to help American people face military attack on a local level. And then, this agency also includes local volunteers, mobile first aid facilities, and community skills put to work. They also give information about survivor an atomic bomb attack, which areas of contamination to avoid, advise safe practice during fallout, and move about stricken areas restoring calm, reassuring the frightened, removing the ill or homeless. Then the new culture of prepping arose because of the fear of nuclear war at that time. Okay, then during Eisenhower's administration around 1953 to 1961, there was a guidelines about shelter survival were laid out in the early years of the Cold War. The booklet offered practical advice on surviving nuclear fallout and explained what fallout was and how families could protect themselves. Converting a basement into a fallout shelter was straightforward with a recommendation of for 2 week food supply, including favorite canned good to boost morale. And those guidelines suggest supplies include a battery operation radio, flashlight with extra batteries, first aid kit, blanket, a stove for heat and cooking, and containers for waste. The booklet's tone was pragmatic rather than alarmist, with illustrations showing families calmly passing the time in shelters, such as parents supervising children playing checkers. Also, in 1955, the practice of stockpiling food for an emergency was urged by the Federal Civil Defense Administration or FCDA. This initiative was called Grandma's Pantry and suggests every family should have an emergency 7-day supply of food and water. Also, the foods with longer shelf life were promoted in stores as food that shelters friendly and include camel soup, tang, Kellogg's Corn Flakes, and assorted candy bars. Therefore, the government encouraged the development of Doomsday food that could be mass-produced and would be shelf-stable, cheap, and nutritious. This is the earliest survival food, commercially developed survival food, and the predating the MRAs or meals ready to eat that developed for the military in 1975. During John F. Kennedy administration, he encouraged his citizens to build fallout shelters in the 1960s because the primary tension between the USSR and US during Cold War. The US government believed that a bomb could be dropped on them at any time. Then this call for self-defense was taken up by the popular media, such as magazine. There was an article entitled "A New Urgency: Big Things to Do, What You Must Learn." The magazine explained about the strategies for American people to survive from nuclear war. There were also a list of recommended supplies, much of which has not changed, include candles, flashlight, radio, canned good, and water. There was a magazine called Life that mentioned a terrifying advice about doomsday prepper on that time. The magazine mentioned about the warning to take cover is a 3-minute apparent short blast of warning siren. If an attack will come, however, the first warning you may get to be the fast itself. Your first move should be close to your eyes and bury your head and your arm of or clothing to block out the light. The shockwave will come next. To cover you will not to be knocked down. If you are in a car, roll down windows to avoid flying glass and lie on the floor. Try to count the second between the flash and shockwave. This will help you estimate how far away the bomb has hit and how long you have to find the better cover before the fallout can reach you. There was also in the previous decade, the Army Corps of Engineers had already identified over 450 caves around the country that could be used for refuse of atomic fallout, and the government agency were to calculate the optimal standard for underground living such as minimum of 10 square feet of space per person and minimal levels of sustenance a person needs to survive. Then the 13-day Cuban Missile Crisis only heightened this urgency, and some Americans stocked their shelters in anticipation of this disaster.
In tangent with fear culture, in the book Urban Preppers and the Pandemic in New York City, Class Resilience and Sheltering in Place, written by Anna Marie Baun, she proposes the idea that the rise of prepper could also be attributed to the rising of self-reliance and individualism in emergent ideology from the theory of Raymond Williams' structure of feelings. In her book, she briefly talks about Monopoly, the board game. As you may know, it deals with hotel, money, property, and financial gain. And to win the game, you have to bankrupt the others. So, the highlight from the board game is not the old Monopoly, but the Walking Dead survival version of Monopoly. This board game highlights the new notion of self reliance of American culture beyond egotism and financial success. Okay, so they play the same as old regular Monopoly, but some things are changed, like the player icon in the old regular Monopoly. You can use car and ship to indicate your wealth and status. But in this version of Monopoly, you can see some weapons like katana, revolver, and baseball bat with a wire and a crossbow. Also, the money in this version of Monopoly, it's changed to supplies rather than actual monies. And the hotels in this version are changed to fortress to take shelter in the apocalypse. This board game reflects that the success in American culture are not attributed to monetary gains but also includes the desperate needs to protect oneself and one's family against a wide range of catastrophe. Given American culture, rising fears is not just financial collapse that they're worrying about, but also everything else like immigration or terrorist attack, or maybe a hurricane, earthquake. But Doomsday Prepper don't always go alone, they or with family, but they can also band in group. This group don't want to achieve self-sufficiency by themselves. They build a gated community exclusively for themselves. Well, for starter, we can take a look at this architecture of Atlas P silo, which is a shelter. And as you can see, there's a several room built for its member. So they in the Doomsday prepping community, this is calling bugging in or and not bugging out, which is basically means staying in one place, while bugging out is staying out of the grid. It's basically just gone. Also, you can see from the picture that there is some designated area for survival and entertainment for the inhabitant. Okay, before we start on Vivos, for some added context, Vivos is a American company that provided shelter for those who are willing to pay. So this table is taken from the terravivos.com slash application pricing.php, which is list the price if you want to apply for shelter in Vivos, yeah, as we say, a shelter company in the time of Doomsday. So this is the kind of exclusivity thing, like a gated community thing, that happened in Doomsday prepping. So basically, shelters needs a lot of money to build, and the average American can build that or have this kind of level of shelter for them. The lowest pricing in the table is $35,000, but according to www.monster.com, the average yearly salary of American are $15,000 a year for a full-time worker. So these kind of shelter are exclusive.
Across the country, ordinary Americans from all walks of life are taking whatever measures necessary to prepare for what they perceive as the end of the world as we know it. Next, we go inside the lives of 3 committed preppers to see if they have what it takes to survive. This is Doomsday Preppers.
I believe it's going to happen. I was born yesterday, and I've been watching, and I'm waiting, because I know what's going to happen. I pray I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. The way I see it, one of 2 things is going to happen. Either the government is going to get their head out of their ass, and they're going to implement some serious austerity measures, and they're going to save this economy, in which case the entitleists will not be getting their checks. Or they're not, and the economy is going to collapse, and the entitleists are not going to get their checks. And when those people that think they're entitled to other people's stuff don't get the stuff given to them by the government, they're going to come and try and take our stuff. And when they do, this is what they get. I'm preparing my family for the imminent collapse of the United States economy.
Steve H. A contractor in Washington state fears that economic collapse will encourage widespread riots and looting, and that his home in an easily accessible neighborhood could become a target.
We've taken steps at our house to ensure our safety. Alarm, video camera, guns, traps. But in the doomsday scenario that I see coming, that place is not going to be safe. There's going to be people roving in bands, coming and hitting people's houses and stuff. And when that happens, I plan on being long gone from there. That's why I got my bug out location.
Steve's bug out location is a cabin deep in an undisclosed mountain range 50 miles away. For the past year, the family has traveled there on weekends to add to their stockpiles.
Now, a regular family, they may play the soccer games, they may go to church on the weekend. We used to do all those things. Now we spend our time prepping for what we see is coming. Because I believe that any rational individual, when they know what I know, would behave in a similar manner.
Every Monday, Steve sets a prepping goal for the family. By the end of the week, Steve's wife, Kim, 20-year-old Nick, and 8-year-old Stephen James must all help increase the stockpile of preps.
Going back to popular culture again, we're going to talk about apocotainment. So what exactly is apocotainment? Well, according to Foster, the collapsing together of two current social preoccupations, the sharply increased economic inequity between classes and the emergence of apocalyptic cultural mindsets, fueled by factors such as paranoia, prepping, and gated communities, the return of underground bunkers and increased gun sale has resulted in a new genre of apocalyptically themed movies and television program defined as apocotainment. Well, according to Forster, argues that the center of apocotainment is the merging of two groups, wealthy whites and preppers, as they share similar traits such as paranoia, a lack of empathy, a crisis of masculinity, and a preoccupation with doomsday scenarios. Apocotainment, exaggerated form of prepping, depicts a darker version of the 1915s American nuclear family, turning wholesomeness into ruthless patriarchy accompanied by endless conspicuous consumption of survival gear that can be used to quickly kill off other and store essential provision for the family. As you can see from the clip from the Nat Geo Doomsday Prepper, they turn their family into some kind of theater of war presided over by a patriarch who acts a drill surgeon over his family as it were a military unit at war with the world itself. And you also see that he's wearing a camouflage and also have a gun in the background in the interview he's doing for the Nat Geo. Another brief example is also Doomsday Castle, and you can see the dead, the middle figure wearing some sort of military clothes.
So, in conclusion, Doomsday Prepper reflects society changing fears, evolving from Cold War nuclear concern to modern issues like environmental crisis and economic instability. Thank you everyone for watching.